Welcome back to Spectation Sports. I am James Lynch. He is Adam Martin. We got a card on Friday. Friday night fights coming up here. Showcase MMA 21 Checkmate. I love the chess graphic and all that stuff. It's looking great. And this is going to be going down to the Meadowview Convention Center in Kingsport, Tennessee. Adam, how's it going? Excited to talk some fights with you. It's been a bit.
Hell yeah, man. I love Showcase MMA, James. You know, like, again, guys, the prospects on the regional scene, these are the guys that eventually will make it to the big show. You're going to see these guys in the UFC, PFL, etc. Like we had Chandler Cole. We talked about him a few months ago, James. He was fighting for $1 million in PFL. So yes, they're regional level guys. They don't have a lot of experience, but one day they will be in the big show. And I'm glad we get to talk about it now, man.
Let's start first with Dillon OSullivan and Greg Sizemore. No relation to Tom. Really exciting matchup here. What can you tell us about this fight?
Yeah, for sure. So Dillon's got two pro fights, both for Showcase MMA, James. He won both by first round stoppage. He did have quite a bit of experience as an amateur before that, going 7-6. But since turning pro, he's looked really good. As for Greg Sizemore, we talked about him a little bit off air, James. He fought for the WXC promotion in Michigan, which has sent a lot of guys to the UFC at this point. Justin James, Colin Anglin, etc. So
Jared Brooks as well. Yeah, another one who used to be in the UFC. But yeah, I get what you're going with. Yeah,
for sure. It's a good promotion. The thing is, though, he's 37 and O'Sullivan's only 26. The other thing is, he does have more experience with a 4-5-1 record, which is nice to see, James. But it's a losing record as a pro. And I was watching some of his fights, and some of the guys he beat weren't that good. Honestly, I think this is a setup fight for Dillon to get a win here over a guy who's kind of a respected veteran in Greg Sizemore. So I'm going with Dillon Sullivan, James. I think he can finish him. Greg's been finished, I think, in 4 fights, and I think that Dillon can finish him too. So that's my pick, Dillon Sullivan by stoppage.
I'm going the same way, not to mention the layoff. Hasn't fought since July of 2019, so a big layoff coming in here. Obviously, this is a favorable fight here for Dillon. We're going to go with him to get it done here, Adam and I, both of that. All right, let's keep it going here. Joshua Oxendine, someone we have seen a lot on the Showcase MMA cards. Exciting prospect, going to be taking on Quentin Foy. Hope I said that right, but what are you expecting from this explosive matchup here?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, James, because they're both coming off a loss to the same guy, Randall Austin Jr., a guy that we talked about, really good prospect, who I think he's going to be in the UFC, I think, one day, or Bellator, or something like that. Very good prospect. So, I mean, like, they're coming off the same loss to the same guy, which is a good matchup, I think, for both guys. Josh, though, to me, way more experience as a pro, James. Foy doesn't have a lot of experience as a pro. Josh, he's been in Showcase MMA. He's got some wins in Showcase. I know he lost his last fight to Randall, but before that, smashed Lloyd Thornton, who's a respected veteran on the regional scene. I think Josh gets this fight done, too. The only thing I say about Josh is I'd like for him to find a weight class, because every time we talk about him, he's at a different weight class, 125, 135, 145. This is at 145. I still think he's the better fighter. He'll win, but I'd like to see him to commit to a weight class, James.
I'm the same way. I think it's also just opponent switch-ups and all that as to why he's been bouncing around a little bit, but I'm with you. I like Joshua Oxendine in this fight. Look, he made a mistake in his last fight against a guy that we speak very highly of in Randall Austin Jr. I know the same can be said for his opponent, but the experience definitely favors Josh Oxendine in this fight. I think he goes out there and bounces back in a big way, and this is the start of a really good run here for Joshua Oxendine, who I know made a mistake in his last fight. He's learned from it. He's going to come back better than ever. And let's get to the main event here. Another switch-up, but we do still have Dalton Goins going to be headlining the card here. A really exciting prospect, 5-3, taking on Deontae Venable, or D Venable. I believe that's how you say it. What can you tell us about the main event, Adam?
Yeah, another interesting fight, James. Another featherweight fight in this card. Dalton, this is his pro debut, but he did have quite a bit of experience in Showcase MMA before that. He went 3-3 in Showcase and 5-3 as an amateur. He actually has a win over Dallas Manspile, who I interviewed this week. He's fighting in this card against Nick Campbell in an amateur 145-pound fight. So Dalton's making the leap from the amateur to the pro ranks, James, and that's always interesting. You never really know how that's going to go for a guy. But D, I look at him, and he only has one fight as a pro, and he lost it. I think that Goins is the better prospect, James. I'm going to lean towards Goins, but until you see him get in there in the pro ranks, 4 or 5-minute fight, 5-minute rounds. As an amateur, a lot of the time they're fighting 3-minute rounds. I want to see him fight for 5 minutes before I'm sold on him, but I do think he'll win this fight, James. I think Dalton's going to win, so I would go with him to get the win, maybe by stoppage too. I think that this is kind of a favorable matchup for him.
Yeah, and I hate to bore our audience here, but I agree with Adam here again. I think the main event is definitely, one that should favor Goins in this fight. But like you mentioned, we hear about UFC jitters. How about pro jitters? That does happen to fighters. So we'll see how Goins reacts in the main event here. But a tremendous opportunity here on this Friday night card. I keep emphasizing that because usually these cards are on Saturday. So keep your eye out for that. For myself, Adam Martin, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back next time for another preview of Showcase MMA. Have a great weekend and enjoy the fights on Friday.